opening day is here. Baseball is back in Houston. It's the first game of 162. And we welcome you in, and we thank you so much for joining us for Astros Baseball on Root Sports. I'm Julia Morales, and in just a few moments, Bill Brown and Alan Ashby will be joining you from the booth. We're excited to be back, and we hope you've enjoyed all the special pregame ceremonies that the Astros have put together, celebrating the past and the present. And it continues now. Two of the most well-known players to ever put on the Houston Astros uniform are taking the field. As you can hear the crowd get excited for guys like Craig Biggio, newly elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, will throw out the ceremonial first pitch. And who will be on the other side? That will be Jose Altuve, the Astros' first ever batting champion. We saw them earlier presenting him, and for the T-Mobile game changer, Jose Altuve. We're taking it back to last year. We watched as Jose Altuve tried to break Craig Biggio's record for 210 hits, a single season record for the Astros. Altuve got it on September 16th of last year, surpassing Craig Biggio with 211 hits. The 211th coming off, guess who? Corey Kluber. A special moment between these two guys. Altuve, of course, going on to collect 225 hits and a very, very special season. And Craig Biggio takes the field now. Of course, these fans loving what they see as Biggio wore the Houston Astros uniform for 20 seasons. Of course, reaching 3,000 hits, a very big part of this club's history. And Jose Altuve, you heard them announce him, he is headed to the plate as he will catch Craig Biggio. These two have a strong connection between them, both playing second base, of course, but they have a lot of respect for each other. Jose Altuve saying before today's game that this is a dream come true, getting to be in the same sentence as Craig Biggio. And there's the first pitch. It's a strike. Why wouldn't it be? It's opening day. Don't go anywhere. Bill Brown and Alan Ashby will get you set for the first pitch. Dallas Keuchel on the mound. Are you ready?
Astros play here, but it feels like a continuation of all the previous years. And yet each season, Ash, is definitely distinctly different.
I thought we were going to get a little off time during the winter, Brownie. Here we are right back in. And it is different every year, but that feeling is always the same.
And as a player, of course, it has to be just a cauldron of emotions bubbling inside you as you come into this clubhouse for the first game.
You know what? That's well put. And there's no way to get around it. I don't care if you're a rookie or if you're a seasoned vet. You're going to feel all those feelings. You've worked so hard during the offseason. You grew up with the dreams of everything you wanted to be able to do as a big league ball player. You've worked during the offseason. A lot of pitching for the guys, hitting, weightlifting, sprints, everything done, all for this day to make it look right and to have a big year.
And the marathon starts tonight. In just a few minutes, we'll be back with the opening day lineups for the Cleveland Indians and the Houston Astros, who both have high hopes for 2015. It's Corey Kluber, the American League Cy Young Award winner, and Dallas Keuchel in just a moment.
In 1965, the Houston Colt 45s changed their name and moved into a new stadium. And the Astros have been making history ever since. We do it bigger and better in Houston. We're always on a cutting edge. We created Space Age Baseball, a giant dome with air conditioning, a flying saucer elevator that looks right over the top of the field, and the astronauts for ground crew. And when the grass wasn't green enough, we kicked it up just a little and revolutionized the playing field. But it wasn't just the Astrodome that made us state-of-the-art. We had great players to match. We fired toy cannons, rode on express, chased the pennant with Cheo, launched rockets, and swarmed with killer bees. We don't just win either. We go big, or we don't do it at all. The one-game playoff in 1980, the Mike Scott no-hitter that clinched the pennant in 1986, the big unit dominating the stretch run in 1998, closing the dome. What a sad moment that was, with another title in 1999. The 18th inning walk-off in 2005, and finally, our first Hall of Famer, Mr. Craig Biggio. A lifetime innovation, great players, and unforgettable moments that give Houston a special place in the time capsule of baseball. And as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Astros, the Astrodome, and 10-year anniversary of our World Series team, we're launching a new era with an even bigger bang. A new generation of bright young stars stand ready to relight the fuse and recapture the glory. Fueled by the talent and knowledge of all the great players who came before and still wear the uniform with passion and pride. A tradition that shines brightly, a future that knows no limits. Space Age Baseball is still making history in Houston. We light the candles. 3, 2, 1.
And thank you, Jimmy Wynn. There's the first pitch of the 2015 Astros season. It's strike one to former Astro Michael Bourne from Dallas Keuchel in his first opening day assignment. How's that for timing, Ash?
Could not have done that any better. And what a great piece that was. And some of the terrific players that have played in this organization, as the piece said, with a great deal of pride.
Michael Bourne had hamstring problems last season. He is healthy again, had a good spring. Bounces one to second. Altuve to his right. There's out number one for Dallas Keuchel in 2015. And the starting lineup for Terry Francona's Tribe, picked by Sports Illustrated to win the World Series this year. Michael Bourne in center, Jason Kipnis at second, Michael Bradley in left field, an outstanding player. At first, Carlos Santana, the catcher John Gomes with Brandon Moss, a newcomer in right field, Ryan Rayburn the DH, Lonnie Chisenhall at third, Jose Ramirez the shortstop. The Indians were 5-2 against the Astros last season, 11-3 the last 2 years against Houston. That's a good pitch on the inside corner. Keuchel flourished so much last year at the bottom reaches of the strike zone, Ash.
That's what he does so well, but he does work both corners. He'll come in for a guy that doesn't throw overly hard. He'll work that inside corner as well as anybody. And what he does is he gets ahead of hitters. He forces these guys in today's world of wanting to take pitches to swing the bat because he's going to get ahead.
Jason Kipnis was injured last year with an oblique bothering him much of the season. His numbers fell off from the year before. He's a very important player for the Tribe. And he works the count to 2-1.
As you saw in that last pitch, when Dallas Keuchel misses, oftentimes it's very close.
Fly ball to shallow left field coming in. Rasmus. Colby Rasmus takes care of the second out. He is a center fielder playing left, and the Astros feel very good about their outfield range with this trio, Ash.
This group can go get it, no doubt about it, and a very easy play in the end right here for Colby Rasmus because he gets great jumps. But Dallas Keuchel on the hill, strike thrower, extreme in that regard. 7th best in the American League last year in ERA at that 293 mark, a 12-game winner. I thought very deserving to make the All-Star team last year. It didn't happen. Let's pull for Dallas Keuchel this year to get onto that All-Star squad.
Best ground ball ratio in the majors last year for Keuchel, now facing Michael Bradley. And he takes strike one. Bradley off that terrific year, as you might have noticed on the graphic a few minutes ago. Third in the MVP voting in the American League after a .327 season. 20 homers, 97 runs batted in, an .890 OPS. And he won a Silver Slugger. He was third in doubles with 45.
And Bradley was deserving, Brownie, of everything he got last year. Just a smooth-looking hitter. In fact, plays the entire game that way. If the Indians are to fulfill what some people think they might be able to do this year, Brantley will be the guy to lead them.
27 years old. His father, Mickey Bradley, was a major leaguer and a former hitting coach. Hits the ground ball there to Chris Carter for a 1-2-3 first for Dallas Keuchel. Now, last year's Cy Young Award winner in the American League, Corey Kluber, comes to the mound right after this. take a look at the Astros for their first game in 2015. Jose Altuve leads it off at second base. It's George Springer batting second this year. He's the right fielder. Luis Valbuena plays third, bats third. The DH is Evan Gattis, with Chris Carter at first base, Jason Castro the catcher, Jed Lowry the shortstop, Colby Rasmus in left field, Jake Marisnik in center field.
Corey Kluber on the hill for these Indians. And I talked about Brantley. He's going to have to be really good. Kluber as well on the pitching side has to be big. And was he ever big last year? Cy Young Award winner, 18-game winner. Look at the strikeout total there. This is a guy that can pitch like a power pitcher, throw strikes, great breaking ball, and an amazing competitor on the hill. He'll give you the death stare.
Astros lineup was brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Now the reigning batting champion facing the reigning Cy Young Award winner to open the season. And Jose Altuve got his Silver Slugger Award, the silver bat for winning the batting title before the game. And then a special made ring from Astros owner Jim Crane and another owner, John Havens, and a Lexus automobile. 341, 7 homers, 59 runs batted in, bringing him all the hardware from that terrific season. That's flicked in the air, and the first baseman comes over Santana for a look at it, but it's about 8 rows deep into this sold-out crowd here at Minute Maid Park. Beautiful, beautiful night here. Nice breeze coming through the stadium.
Really ideal for the fans and for the players. Go out there with all those nerves that we've talked about for opening day, and the fans have them too. But for the players, man, it's about that first hit, that first pitch you're able to throw for a strike, as Dallas Keuchel did, and Corey Kluber. You get those out of the way and you start playing baseball.
Fourth consecutive opening day start for Altuve. Two takes. It's 2-1 as we look back at the previous pitch.
Now, one of the things Kluber does, he fell behind 1-0, and what does he come with? Hitters are looking for a fastball. Throws that little cut job at 90 miles an hour, great location. Part of the reason Kluber has become the excellent pitcher he is.
He just signed a 5-year contract extension for $39 million. Chopped slowly to third base and foul. 2-2. Altuve had an outstanding spring training after really grinding it throughout the season to that .341 batting average. It was just a difficult time for anybody to find fault with the year he had. He led the majors in hits with 225, a club record. Previous mark set by Craig Biggio with 210. They collaborated on the first pitch tonight. Altuve hit .366 in this ballpark last year. Up the middle, and the shortstop Ramirez comes over. Quick throw, well played for the first out for Kluber.
Defensively this evening for these Cleveland Indians, we'll look at it outfield left to right. Michael Brantley, Michael Bourne, and Brandon Moss. They can go get it. On the infield, Lonnie Chisenhall. He's had some troubles defensively. Jose Ramirez, Jason Kipnis on the right side with Carlos Santana. And behind the plate, a guy who played very well last year, Yan Gomes.
George Springer did not play in August or September last year with a thigh muscle injury. It had healed by the end of the season, and he embarked upon a different sort of conditioning program. He had 20 homers in 78 games last year with an .804 OPS. This one goes deep to center field. Michael Bourne has room in right center, and on a warning track, hauls in out number 2. Wind is blowing out to left center tonight.
There are good outs that a hitter can make. That was one for George Springer. Sometimes pulls off on pitches, that huge swing, but stayed right on this, driving it back up the middle. And he'll launch pitches in that direction that'll get out of any ballpark. Might have gotten in on him just a hair.
Bourne tracks it down for the second out. Now the first at bat as an Astro for 29-year-old Luis Valbuena, obtained in a trade with the Chicago Cubs. Dexter Fowler going to the Cubs for Dan Straley and Valbuena. Valbuena had his best major league season with the Cubs last year. He really sizzled this spring. There's strike one.
Part of what he does really well is he works at hitting the ball the other way. He'll use the entire field, and he hits it sharply to left field. He's not just a little chicken winger flipping balls that way.
Got in on him under his hands for strike 2.
So Kluber comes again with that version of a slider, cutter, whatever you want to call it. Everybody has their own terminology.
This is the 5th year for Valbuena on an opening day roster. He's a former Cleveland Indian. It's his 2nd opening day start. Grounds one, and Kipnis is there to his left to flip it on to Santana for a 1-2-3 first for both hurlers tonight. No score. Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. And by Jack in the Box. Jack's hottest sandwich is back. Head to Jack in the Box for Jack's Blazing Chicken Sandwich. Game 1 of 162. The Astros open a 3-game series here at home before moving on to play the Texas Rangers in Arlington over the weekend. Tomorrow will be an off day. Back at it Wednesday night. And now as we go to the 2nd inning in game 1 of the season, it's Dallas Keuchel versus Carlos Santana. Switch hitting first baseman, a former catcher. Santana just about to turn 29 in 2 days. Last year hit 27 homers, driving in 85 runs. He walks quite often. His OPS at 792. He drew 113 walks to lead the league. That is strike one on the edge. Keuchel, just such a refined pitcher. You talked about, Ash, the fact that when he misses, he does not miss the strike zone by a whole lot.
Even the refined pitchers can have an off night. Not so at this point for Dallas Keuchel. He is sharp.
His curve comes in. That's a pitch sometimes he shies away from. No balls and 2 strikes.
It's part of the changing speeds game, and I thought he made great strides last year in that regard.
And he gets a swing and a miss and strikes out Santana on a foul tip. Held by Castro for strikeout number 1.
Santana feels like maybe this foul tip hit the dirt. Let's take our own peek. Looked like it went straight into that glove. It's just hitting the top of the baseball. A nice job by Jason Castro.
Ted Barrett, the crew chief, is the home plate umpire who made that call. Keuchel has thrown first pitch strikes to each of the first 4 batters. Now facing Yan Gomes after a 278 year, 21 homers, 74 runs batted in. He comes into 2015. That's on the edge, and Keuchel looks very sharp tonight.
So people say throw the first pitch strike. Well, in the major leagues that can get you mauled. Not when you put that pitch at the bottom of the knees and on the corner like Keuchel just did.
In tight for a 1-1 count, and that's one thing he's also done effectively is pitch inside. You talked about it earlier, but you just saw it there. Even though the pitch was not a strike, that plants something in the mind of the hitter that he's not going to be able to look just all the time for pitches away. 2 balls and a strike.
The Indians had the #1 ranked American League catcher offensive spot last year. And Yan Gomes, with those 21 home runs, was the man to make it happen.
He'll claim his Silver Slugger award when the Indians get back home. Out in front of the changeup. Gomes goes to a 2-2 count.
So we talked about Kluber and the 1-0 little cutter that he threw effectively. Here's the 2-1 changeup. Those are fastball counts, and major league hitters want that fastball.
50th anniversary for the Astros, who were renamed in 1965. Strikeout number 2. They began their existence as the Colt 45s from 62 through 64.
This looks like Andy Pettit at work this last pitch. Pettit called it a cutter, but that's what it looked like. A big slider down and in on the right-hand hitter, and just perfectly executed. Remember, that comes on the heels of the changeup down and away, so it's a different look pitch to pitch.
Brandon Moss came from Oakland and joined Cleveland over the winter. And the strapping power hitter takes strike 1. Moss is from Monroe, Georgia. That pattern of strike 1 is a very strong one for Dallas Keuchel. Infield is shifted around, playing him to pull. 0-2. The Indians are predominantly a left-handed hitting team, as you've been able to tell from these batters.
You know, not only is Dallas Keuchel throwing strikes, Corey Kluber the same story. But look at the pace of the ball game with these two pitchers. They are on the hill, ready to work and bring strikes. The defense loves it.
In the dirt, and Moss stays away from a swing. It's 1-2. Moss hit 25 homers for Oakland last year, driving in 81. He had 23 of those homers the first 4 months, and then his left hip started bothering him, and he gave in to surgery in late October, joining Cleveland in a trade in December. And that's fouled away. Dallas Keuchel hasn't pitched against the Tribe since the 2013 season, when he had a good game at Cleveland. A no decision, but 7 innings, 1 run allowed. So for 2 career games, 1 of them in relief, he has no decisions with a 2.41 ERA against Cleveland. Moss not biting, and the count runs to 2 balls, 2 strikes.
If a grizzly beard gives you that tough to hit appearance on the hill, Dallas Keuchel would be tougher than anybody in the game, I would think.
He gets a strikeout, strikes out the side. 6 up, 6 down for Keuchel. Gaddis, Carter, and Castro come up. Keuchel has set a tone on the mound. Kluber's up next.
Indians. The Biggio Hall of Fame 7-game ticket package offers great matchups, including the Yankees, Tigers, and Dodgers. Be there for the anniversary of Biggio's 3,000th hit, Biggio Weekend, and more. To purchase tickets, visit Astros.com/Biggio, HOF, or call 1-877-9-ASTROS.
Kevin Gaddis leads it off in the bottom of the second inning. Power hitting DH, joining the Astros in a trade with the Atlanta Braves over the winter. He has had 2 very powerful seasons with Atlanta. There's strike 1 to Gaddis. Gaddis can hit some tape measure shots. Hit a home run here over the weekend against Kansas City. 22 long balls last year, but he played just 108 games.
Kluber with a lot of respect, a little slider to start it.
No balls, 2 strikes. These two actually both grew up in the Dallas area and wound up facing each other in an amateur game here at Minute Maid Park. Have not faced each other as major leaguers. It's 1-2. Gaddis had some sore knees with the Braves. He did quite a bit of catching with them. Also, the back would flare up from time to time, and the Astros plan to use him as a left fielder or a DH primarily. Maybe some first base if needed.
You know, and I don't think that that's all out of fear that Gaddis isn't a fine defensive catcher. I think it's because Jason Castro is primed and ready to have a big year once again.
Right, and they feel good about Hank Conger being his backup catcher. Max Stassi's a AAA. They're pretty well stacked up at catching. But the goal is to get Gaddis 500 at bats or more and let him increase that home run number from 22 up into the 30s, or maybe even higher than that if things just really explode for Gaddis, and get the maximum production from him offensively. Former assistant GM and VP of the Padres, A.J. Hinch. This fly ball goes to left center. Brantley over. A.J. Hinch has managed before for the Arizona Diamondbacks in a couple of seasons.
Kevin Gaddis just had the pleasure, if you will, of facing Corey Kluber, and it wasn't a pleasure for many guys last year. That whip at 109 tells a huge story about what he did. Great ERA, and he looks right now like he's just as sharp as we saw over that Cy Young season. But he's gotten better and better.
He had 269 strikeouts in 235 innings, most by an Indians pitcher since Sudden Sam McDowell in 1970 with 304. Chris Carter gets underneath this one, a fly ball to right center field. Michael Bourne there. You and Sudden Sam have any hookups, Ash, when you were with the Tribe?
His name was around. He was kind of one of the figures. Gaylord Perry was there around that time, but Sudden Sam was kind of the legendary guy, and I was just one of the kids showing up occasionally to work in the bullpen. And you know, when you got a chance to catch Sudden Sam in the pen, you could tell some great stories in the minor league camp later.
Jason Castro, 222 last year with 14 homers, 56 runs batted in, has refined his hitting over the winter, had great results in the spring. That's strike 1 to him. The year before, he had done a lot of work on his catching and also had finished his degree at Stanford. So he really made hitting his focus this offseason, and the results have looked very good in the spring.
Jason felt last year that teams started pitching him in at that corner quite a bit, and it tied him up. It forced him to try to be a little bit too quick at the plate. You start flinching and moving early, and each of the first 2 pitches from Kluber working the inside edge, and maybe Kluber deserving to be ahead 0-2.
One ball, 2 strikes. Of all things you might not have expected from Corey Kluber after winning the Cy Young Award in the American League. He's the cover boy for this week's Popular Mechanics magazine. That story being how he throws his curveball, the mechanics of a curveball. That's a tight slider, and he gets a strikeout. His first of the night. Both pitchers are perfect through 2.
Keuchel back to work, getting the ball this opening day. Last year was the first time he had ever been on an opening day roster, and he was reminiscing before this game, saying he got chills. It felt like the World Series in here. So such an honor for him to be on the mound tonight. Guys, he said a couple of weeks ago he was working through that dead arm phase, and as I'm told, that's a good time to be going through it, as it doesn't last very long. He felt pretty good about the spring, but he wasn't exactly sure how sharp he would feel coming out tonight. I'd say he looks pretty sharp, though. Real quick, AJ, on making this decision, he said all signs pointed to Dallas. He was the best pitcher last year, but he's also facing a lot of lefties tonight in this Tribe lineup. And AJ loved the fact that he works fast on a night where things can easily get away from you.
Ryan Rayburn, the DH, leads it off. The two pitchers have combined to throw 11 of 12 first pitch strikes in the game. Now make it 12 of 13 with that one to Rayburn.
Part of that fast work, though, again, is the ability to throw quality strikes, and Dallas is just painting them one pitch after another. Of course, Corey Kluber is doing a lot of the same.
Dallas in his last spring start, April 1st, threw 92 pitches. Some pitchers taper off in their final start. He said he wanted to build it up that way. 1-2.
Changeup, how well he changes speeds and spots it where the hitter feels he has to swing.
The Astros' defensive positioning requires a lot of thought. They do much work on where the players are placed. Altuve shading up the middle for Rayburn, but Marisnik is in right center field.
That's a trait that's not unusual, though. Hit ground balls on one side of the field, and fly balls tend to go the other way.
A little roller. It looks like trouble. Keuchel will make a throw and get him. That's an outstanding play by Keuchel.
Why was this guy the best fielding pitcher in the league last year? Well, exactly because of plays like this. This is really tough. You got to sprint. You know the runner's going down the line. It's going to be close, but you still come up throwing accurately to first base after that spin move. Well, that's very well done.
The Gold Glove winner, first Astro pitcher to win the Gold Glove, and that was an example of the plays that he can make. Now it's Lonnie Chisenhall. Chisenhall, the third sacker. Both clubs were pleased with the way they performed in spring training. Chisenhall last year with that .280 average. Lines, and there's the first base runner of the game. Chisenhall poking that line drive to Valbuena's left for a one-out single here in the third.
Chisenhall had a great early portion of the season last year, tapered off a bit, but well, that's very good hitting. You have to think that Keuchel feels like he put the pitch right on the outside black, and sometimes you give up knocks to major league hitters.
Now switch hitting shortstop Jose Ramirez. He really took over at shortstop in the last few weeks of the season last year for the Indians. Taking ball one. Indians have a big time prospect at AAA, Francisco Lindor, but Ramirez, based on a .262 average last season, good play in the field, is the man for now at short. He's only 22 from the Dominican Republic. That's a foul ball, and the count runs to 1 ball, 1 strike for Dallas Keuchel.
You know, Brownie, back to Lonnie Chisenhall and that great piece of hitting the other way. That first half last year, he was good to the tune of .332. Second half, .218. So I don't know what went on at the All-Star break, but I think I would change my style if I were Chisenhall.
He reached for that one, and Ramirez falls behind 1-2 in the count.
Well, that was a good changeup right there, inducing the swing out in front. Here's Chisenhall, and again, look where that pitch is. It's probably legitimately a strike. I think one of the seams on the baseball hit the outside corner, but that's how good of a job that was with the bat.
Rolled over on it. Valbuena with the strong throw to Carter takes care of out number 2. Valbuena beat out Matt Dominguez, who's starting the season at AAA Fresno. Chisenhall to second on the play.
You know, we were talking about the jitters opening night with the bat as a pitcher. You have jitters defensively too, and that was a challenging play to really charge one hand that in between hop. Valbuena comes up with a fine play.
Usually when Keuchel's on the mound, the Astros third baseman gets a lot of work, but it's a little different tonight with all these left-handed hitters.
Mike Hampton-esque.
Yeah. Bourne swings at it. There's strike one to Michael, Houston native. Michael's now 32. Last year the left hamstring continued to bother him after he had surgery on it after the 2013 season. Born in Houston, he went to Nimitz High School and the University of Houston. That's called a strike on appeal to the third base umpire, Chris Conroy. 0-2.
Well, I'm not going to change my tune at all. I have a feeling there are no hitters on either side right now, feeling like it's a comfy night.
One ball, two strikes. Michael Bourne worked with the University of Houston track coach Leroy Burrell in the offseason to try to regain that lofty position as one of the game's best base stealers. Two balls, two strikes.
I think that's the first pitch of the night for Dallas that looked like he overthrew it.
Well, a year ago, Scott Feldman was the opening day starter for the Astros, and Dallas Keuchel had struggled to make the top five in the rotation. To shortstop, Jed Lowry. Lowry with the accurate throw, nips Bourne by a step, and it's no runs, a hit, and a man left, no score.
Every Wednesday evening home game at Minute Maid Park is Dollar Dog Wednesday. The first Dollar Dog Wednesday of the season is day after tomorrow against the Indians. For more information, visit Astros.com or call 1-877-9.
Regular season game of a brand new season.
This is a blast. I'm loving the crowd, too. Got some rowdy ones behind me.
Why not? Enjoy the evening. And then some not so rowdy right now. Thought about the seventh inning. He'll come around.
He's a fan of the hitting, I think.
Jed Lowry would like to comply with some hitting here. The Astros don't have a base runner through two against Corey Kluber. Lowry, the switch hitting shortstop, who hit .249 with 6 homers, 50 runs batted in last season for Oakland, rejoined the Astros, signing a 3-year deal as a free agent over the winter at age 30. Came up with the Boston Red Sox. Kluber pumps in strike one. Kluber has 31 wins in his career, 19 losses, a 3.34 ERA. He has pitched extremely well in this ballpark. 2-0 with a 0.82 earned run average. 1-1.
Talked about the changeup of Dallas Keuchel. That's the same pitch there for Kluber. So he'll mix in that same set of pitches Same type of command.
Lowry pulls it, and Santana keeps it close, tossing to Kluber, 1 out. Colby Rasmus finds himself batting 8th tonight. Not something he has done all that often in his 6-year major league career. Only about 15 times has he batted in the number 8 spot.
Streaky hitter, and you're going to find that he's got a great deal of power despite that slender appearance. He'll also strike out his share, and maybe then some at times. But he can lift a club by himself with his power at times.
From Columbus, Georgia, first-round pick of the St. Louis Cardinals in '05. And Jeff Luhnow was conducting the draft for the Cardinals that year, so he was the first player Jeff Luhnow drafted. Signed a 1-year deal to join the Astros in January. Last year he played for Toronto with 18 homers. Infield has shifted, playing him to pull, and there's strike 1 to Rasmus.
Get a guy that likes to pull the ball like Rasmus, and a lot of pitchers are going to say, well, I don't want to come in, I'm just going to work away. That's where Rasmus can extend. That leadoff little cutter on the hands was ideal.
Taking that one, he creates a 1-1 pitch coming next with Lonnie Chisenhall, the only infielder between second and third. Kipnis is out in shallow right field. It's in a little close, and it's 2-1. So Rasmus, with that pattern you talked about, the pitchers often use against him, well aware that they're going to bust him inside. The question being, is it a pitch he wants to swing at, or can he take it for a ball?
If they miss a bit, leave it over the plate. That's what Colby's going to launch.
That's too far in again, and he works a favorable 3-1 count.
See how close this pitch is. Saw Dallas Keuchel, I think it was Kluber actually, last inning, possibly deserving one. That was very close.
And that is ball 4. Rasmus had several walks in spring training. He takes one here and becomes the first Houston base runner of the night. It's aboard for Jake Marisnick. It's Terry Francona, who's won 2 World Series championships with the Boston Red Sox. Finding himself in a good position with an excellent team. 15th year as a major league manager. Made his playing debut at Houston in '81. He came up with the Montreal Expos. He is an outstanding skipper.
Part of being an outstanding skipper is having the players under you believe in you and play hard for you. And I think Terry Francona gets all of that.
There's strike 1 to Marisnick, who won the center field job this spring. And after hitting well with the Astros last season, 249 overall, and that includes his time with Miami before the trade to Houston, but in a Houston uniform. He stepped it up. He hit 272 with the Astros for 186 at bats. He is a premium defensive center fielder. That's a strike. 0-2. There are other options. Rasmus can play center field. George Springer could play center field, but that's not the plan.
If Jake Marisnick develops as a hitter, you're going to have a whale of a player on your hands.
That's the thought, Ash. Give him a chance and see if he can hit. There's a little broken bat roller. Kipnis on to Santana. Into second, Rasmus on out number 2.
You know, most major league hitters will tell you in any given at bat you should get 1 pitch to handle. But that series of pitches, you look at all 3 of those pitches, there was nothing for Marisnick to really feel comfortable about. Done low with the bat, and there was a change of directions and speeds. It's just a tough AB against this guy.
Now Jose Altuve. He and the Astros put together a 70-92 season last year. That was 19 wins more than the previous year. They've had 6 straight losing seasons. Hoping this one will be a breakout year for the Astros, and Altuve has done everything he could to make this team better over the last few years.
I believe it was Jose Altuve that drove in run #1 last year for the Astros.
Well, Phil Boudreau was checking back, Ash. He takes ball 1.
You know, I could be wrong. It could be Altuve who scored. I know in that first inning it was a huge home run by Jesus Guzman. First pitch he saw as an Astro.
That's right, off CC Sabathia. But Phil Boudreau said 3 years ago Altuve hit second on opening night, then first, then third the last 3 years, and now finding himself back in that leadoff spot. That's what a good hitter he is, that he presents those options to a manager, right?
I think as a manager, what you have to learn to do is just let Altuve use his instincts, because he's going to find a way to do the right thing time and time again.
Now a 2-0 pitch coming to Altuve. He's a .288 career hitter against the Tribe. And lays off, but it's called a strike. 2-1. Generous strike call by Ted Barrett.
Well, the outside corner has been accessible so far tonight in terms of getting the strikes called if you're a pitcher. Inside corner, we've seen some pitches already that have hit the spot that have been tough to get the call on, but we can see right there that that pitch was better than we might have thought.
Yeah, that pitch was a good pitch. And then he runs it in on Altuve, who fouls it. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
We talk about so many hitters that with a couple of strikes on them need to expand the zone, make sure and protect themselves, stay alive one way or another. Altuve does all of that.
Beautiful opening night here in Houston. Tomorrow a day off. Wednesday a 7:10 start. Scott Feldman and Carlos Carrasco will work. Thursday at 1:10. Asher Wojciechowski makes his major league debut against Trevor Bauer. And the Astros go on to Texas. Altuve reaches for a slider and strikes out. Strikeout number 2 for Kluber. No runs, no hits, and a man left. So these two pitchers very much on their game. The opening day ceremonies were spectacular, including the military flyover, including the Biggio first pitch to Altuve. Altuve getting the silver batting title. Bat, and then the starting lineups, and now the baseball has been quick. No score through 3. The Indians have the only hit. That was a Chisholm Hall 1-out single in the 3rd. And already the 4th inning is arriving with Kipnis the batter. Keuchel with 5 ground ball outs for his first 9 outs in the game. Kipnis hit one in the air that was caught, and there's strike 1 to him.
Even during the course of an individual ball game, a pitcher might be feeling really sharp, but you'll lose it for moments. So far, none of that for Dallas.
Hot shot to Carter's left, and the big man takes it to first, 1 out.
Dallas Keuchel back in the second inning on our AT&T rewind. Again, a very sharp left-hander here this evening. That leadoff breaking ball under the strike zone. He got Gomes. He struck out the side and then made a great play defensively on top of things. That came in the third inning. Dallas Keuchel has done all he can possibly do to keep this game scoreless.
Now Brantley. He grounded out to Carter, first time up. Last year by far his best major league season. And you could say the same thing about Dallas Keuchel. Can they do it again? Well, Brantley said he listened to his dad, Mickey Brantley, and became more aggressive last year. Something Mickey Brantley was trying to get him to do for 3 years, and he finally bought into it.
And that's really intriguing if you look at the numbers from the American League. Teams that had their hitters see the most pitches are teams that are down at the bottom. Well, bottom four. The Astros were fourth in that regard in terms of seeing pitches, fourth or fifth. They were fourth in terms of futility in that regard, but the teams that saw the most pitches did not have success offensively.
Interesting. 2-1. Wins above replacement. He was pretty high on that list. 2-2. We're very pleased to be en route. Sports Southwest. Available in many more homes in the Houston area and throughout on DirecTV. On one hop, it goes to third. Valbuena. 2 outs. And of course, available on many more cable systems than before.
Bit of a coming out party.
Well, many fans have taken to this team because of all the positive moves over the winter, including the acquisition of Valbuena. It's the same booth, but at Root Sports, and we've had a chance to meet the people who work for Root Sports. We have a lot of the same folks who were involved in the telecast down through the last few years, but it's been a rather seamless transition for us, and yet a lot more fun to be in more homes, Ash.
Well, it is nice, and of course we're big fans as well and rooting for this team to have a great deal of success.
Carlos Santana. Well, the winter brought many acquisitions by the Astros, but of course Keuchel moved to the top of the list now as one of the staples in the rotation.
Was that Phil Boudreau broadcasting with you?
That was.
Nice strike. Boy, Dallas.
Phil has all the stats for us. 2 balls and a strike. What was, do you think, the most positive development of the year for the Astros during the offseason, Ash?
Well, let me ponder that a moment.
New manager coming in, new coaches, new players.
You know what? I may jump on that manager comment. A.J. Hinch is an impressive guy, and I think our fans are going to get a chance to see why maybe a lot of us feel that way. A.J. Hinch is very bright, very articulate. He knows the game inside and out, and he expresses it well.
Big cut there on 3-1, full count. Well, he's done a lot of things differently than some other managers in spring training. One thing was he had some of the young players like Carlos Correa interview some of the veteran players, and Mark Appel, so they would go up to somebody who'd been around for a while, like a Jed Lowry, and ask them questions. Good way for guys to get to know each other. There's a 2-out walk to Santana.
Well, I guess on top of that, to learn what makes a good player tick and what it is they still may need to acquire.
Right. And by the stories, he had the biggest open door policy that's possible for a manager to have. A player would walk by and he would call him in. Say, hey, you want some coffee? He had a little Keurig there in his office. Sit down, have a cup of coffee. Let's talk.
You know what? That policy has been really open for those of us covering the team as well.
Yan Gomes, born in Brazil. There's strike 1. 13 of 14 first pitch strikes for Keuchel. Talked about Gomes winning that Silver Slugger as the top offensive catcher in the American League last year, coming from Toronto to Cleveland. And well, that's been a nice acquisition for the Tribe. He's only 27 years old.
There are a lot of batting practice pitchers who could throw 13 of 14 first pitch strikes, but they throw them right down the heart of the plate with not much deception for the hitter. And that's the added element that Dallas Keuchel is bringing.
1 ball, 1 strike. Certainly an honor to get the opening day assignment. Dallas Keuchel has talked about that. But the other part is that the other team is putting its best pitcher on the mound at the same time. And his opponent just happens to be a Cy Young Award winner from last year.
And by the way, just because you pitch opening day doesn't mean that you'll face number ones all season.
Line drive back to Keuchel. No runs, no hits, and a man left. He's made a couple of plays in this game to keep it scoreless.
Year. That's the first major league home run of 20 for George Springer. Oppo in Detroit, and then he went to launch, and that really got him going. One in Anaheim, you can see with the old rainbows on in Seattle. He had a huge series there and just kept on launching at that point. He played in only 78 games, and yet those 20 home runs, and some were just mammoth. What a series he had in Kansas City. And if you think he can't hit big-time pitching, take a look back at that pitching staff for the Kansas City Royals last year. That was a bomb in Tampa Bay.
And he can dance, too.
And he can flat dance.
No score. Springer leads it off. Bottom of the 4th inning. He hit the first pitch to center field in the first. Corey Kluber has allowed 1 base runner. He walked Rasmus on a 3-1 count with 1 out in the 3rd. Kluber really was dealing out walks sparingly last season. He walked 51 in 235 innings. And home runs off him didn't amount to much. 14 in 235 innings, an average of 0.53 homers per 9. 4th best in the American League.
Yeah, you're alleged to be doing pretty well if you give up 1 per 9-10 innings. But with that 10-inning mark, it's easy to be able to figure out when you're looking at a line of stats. But Kluber is not easy to take out of the yard.
Springer takes a good 2-0 pitch on the corner.
Yeah, you get that 2-0. You're going to get a fastball. You think it's going to be through the heart of the plate. You think, and then it winds up darting back at the edge.
He does have late movement. Now the count's 2-2.
Outside corner, inside corner. People want you to be patient, but how do you do you be patient with pitches like that? I guess you take them and you just see strikes called.
Springer takes, now 3-2.
That was close. I guess if you don't argue strike two's call, then you have a chance on that one, but I wouldn't try to do it time and time again.
Gomes moved his body back in toward the plate.
Yeah, a lot of talk about catcher framing. I don't know.
Struck him out. Number 3 for Kluber. And it's Valbuena.
So you come with that little cutter or slider. I don't know what Kluber's terminology might be there, but I do know that his execution is nearly flawless.
Classified on one website as a cutter at 89 miles per hour. Valbuena grounded out to second earlier. Kluber was born in Birmingham and went to high school in Coppell, Texas, in the Dallas area, and then Stetson University, a 4th-round pick by San Diego in 07. That one moves back to the corner. Strike one on Valbuena.
You know, I mentioned Andy Pettitte earlier in the ball game. He had visually as classic a slider as you would ever see from a left-hander, but Andy called it a cutter and actually took offense at people calling it a slider. So it's up to the individual's terminology.
No balls, 2 strikes. Kluber was traded to Cleveland in a deadline deal in 2010. 3-team deal. Orbit, quite a star of the pregame festivities today. He's known internationally now. Went to Japan during the offseason.
He's the king of them all, right?
Yeah. Foul back. Good cut there by Valbuena to stay alive, and no balls, 2 strikes.
Yeah, if you can start getting mentioned with the Philly fanatic, you're doing pretty well.
Well, the atmosphere is just terrific on opening night. Around the various ballparks, nothing like it. But it's only one game. Upstairs to Valbuena, 1-2. The Astros are 25-28 in opening day games. 20-19 at home in openers. And they often open at home because their game will be played. Games up north sometimes are postponed. Valbuena swings over the top of that breaking pitch and strikes out. That's number 4.
Well, again, he turns to a breaking ball. This might have been the over the top hammer here. He's got it, doesn't throw it a whole lot, but Valbuena is a guy that sees the ball well and yet unable to stay with that one.
Pretty night in Houston, Texas, as Evan Gattis gets his second at bat as an Astro. He worked the count full and then hit a fly ball to left earlier. Evan was born in Dallas, went to Bishop Lynch High School and UT Permian Basin. 23rd round pick of Atlanta. And the big deal that brought him to Houston involved Mike Fultonevich, Andrew Thurman, and Rio Ruiz going to Atlanta. The Astros giving up quite a package to get this power hitter.
Yeah, giving up that 100-mile-an-hour arm at Fultonevich, you're really banking on getting something that helps your ball club immediately, and that's what the Astros hope to get with Gattis.
That's right. More of an immediate move to improve the club quickly.
By the way, Bronny, you mentioned it's just one game opening night. Back in '86, the Astros won that year and won by a wide margin in the National League West. They lost their first 2 games on the season.
Yeah, I was looking at that today. It's interesting.
By the way, playing the Giants in that first 3-game series.
Well, but when it counted, and they threw a no-hitter against the Giants to clinch at the end of the year, things had really turned the other way.
They meaning Mike Scott, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
But they actually have a losing record when they've had a playoff team on opening day. Line shot to left. Bradley back. Well hit ball out number 3. After 4, There's been one hit in the game, a Chisenhall third inning single, no score.
Is powered by Kubota tractors. Keuchel, McHugh, and Feldman anchoring last year's staff and posting a winning record in the process. They were 31-30 with a 3.15 ERA and 83 starts. Among those three, they were really good. You see Colin McHugh, who's being counted on to be one of the big horses this year, and of course Scott Feldman, who had the opening day assignment. These three are going to be needed to perform well this year, and then have at least a couple of other guys fall in behind. The bullpen is going to be key as well. But there are the numbers on Dallas Keuchel, Colin McHugh, and Scott Feldman. And if the early returns mean anything, Dallas Keuchel is leading the way very, very well.
Besides those top three, the other starters were 1936 with a 4.66 ERA. And the Astros feel they have a lot more depth in those spots of the rotation for this year. Brandon Moss, the batter. And it's ball one.
That pitch apparently called high, and that tells you a lot of where the strike zone has gone these days.
Now that one is high, and it's 2 balls, no strikes.
All right, Dallas, come on, kid.
Yeah, there are many people in baseball who feel the strike zone is lower than it's been.
I used to hear umpires say, well, your pitcher doesn't want that high strike anyway. The heck he doesn't. Getting ahead versus falling behind can be all the difference in the world. This is pitch number 1. Is it high? Well, the strike zone box there says that's a strike. And I would love to see the umpires mix that into their repertoire.
2-2 the count.
Especially when you've got Brent Strawn, the pitching coach, desiring that his pitching staff work up there.
Well, there's one source, and you see Ted Barrett is the home plate umpire, and the other guys on the crew. One source says that since 2009, the average strike zone has expanded some 40 square inches downward.
You know, the thing is, when you see some pitches that to the eye look like maybe a pitcher got a break with a call under the knees typically, and then you see the strike box utilized as we've been doing here this evening, you find that that pitch actually does find the strike zone, and that strike zone should be at the bottom of the knees.
Shift is on for Moss. He takes a walk. Walk number 2 for Keuchel. This one leads off an inning. The last one came with 2 outs in the last inning.
Let's take a look at that last pitch from the bearded wonder as he tries to spot it, does but misses a bit. But you can see that the tendency throughout that entire at bat was for Keuchel to work away. And that may come from thinking maybe a little later in the ball game with a man on base, you find a big spot to come in.
Ryan Rayburn takes ball 1. Last year, Keuchel in 200 innings walked 48.
Let that get it, Dallas. Come on, kid.
Rayburn hit that little dribbler, and Keuchel made a terrific play to throw him out.
7 ground ball outs already recorded by Keuchel. He'd love to get the grounder for the deuce here.
1-1.
Yeah, new left side of the infield this year with Valbuena at third and Lowry at shortstop. Mike Sarbaugh's the third base coach. Andy Alomar Jr. coaches first. The appeal went to the first base umpire, Angel Hernandez, who rang it up as strike two. Rayburn was a fifth-round pick of Detroit in '01. He's had 16 homers in a season a couple of times. Primarily a platoon player, born in Tampa. Third and Castro kept it close for a 2-2 count on Rayburn.
You're right here, Dallas. Come on.
Let's see if Jason Castro this year can combine that defensive side of the game and go back a couple of years with the bat and have a big year there as well. He is more than capable of being one of the game's finest behind the plate.
Lowry, Altuve, and Carter. First double play of this season.
There's your deuce. And exactly what Dallas Keuchel wanted to get. Beautifully started by Jed Lowry, who's at shortstop to try to keep things smooth and consistent. And exactly what he does there.
Nothing better than that after a leadoff walk. Now Lonnie Chisenhall. Leadoff walk can often become very troublesome to a pitcher. Keuchel shrugged it off. That's ball one.
Now if you look at trends a bit, and I'm not sure that Keuchel's trying to exploit the top of the strike zone, but he's missing high in this inning. This could be that frame we talked about where you lose it a bit, but if you can get through scoreless, then everything's fine.
Chisenhall was drafted in the first round in '08. In for a strike.
There's a strike called. I wouldn't say that was the most quality of strikes that Dallas has thrown.
Right. Caught a lot of the plate. Pitch was up. Something to be said, though, isn't there, for changing the eye level, not keeping every pitch down around the knees.
Here's the pitch that we question. That's probably not the zone you generally want to go to, though with the next pitch you can see Castro brought the glove up.
And that's fouled away. 3-2. Keuchel really somebody who deserves a ton of credit, though, for what he achieved last year. In 2013 he was 6-10 with a 5.15 ERA. Then last year 12-9 with a 2.93. In tight for another walk. And that's rare for him.
It is. I think that pitch is going to prove to be pretty close, but that inside edge much tougher tonight to be able to get the called strike. Brent Strom deserves a lot of credit there. I didn't see anything drastically different in approach and style. Much more inside than I thought from the previous year, and you gave the rough numbers for Dallas to last year, and yet he made it all work with the help of Brent Strom.
Jose Ramirez grounded out to third earlier. Strom moves and dives with his pitchers, really very supportive of them. There's strike one. An advocate of working all around the different quadrants of the strike zone. And Keuchel is very much a thinking man's pitcher. Did you find when you were catching a pitcher on opening day that with all the extra emotion that goes into the day, they could hit a wall in the middle innings where it seems more like the 7th or 8th because they've had to deal with all the extra energy with the warm-ups and all that?
Yeah, I guess I've seen it both ways. Keep in mind, opening day for the other 4 in the starting rotation come with each following day. So Colin McHugh is going to have his opener tomorrow night, and yeah, you see the nerves, but sometimes those nerves, when utilized well, can lead to a very strong performance. Ken Force with that no-hitter back in '79.
Yeah. Castro keeps it close, 2-2. Well, Colin will be pitching that first game in Texas, which will be the Rangers home opener on Friday rather. So that will have, the opposite type deal. You're the visiting pitcher in an opener, and so that'll be Similar challenge to tonight, but at the end of the bat, it goes back to Keuchel, and he works out of an inning in which he walks 2 and keeps the game scoreless. Is presented by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. A brand new season. This year's Astros uniforms have the 50-year patch of the Astros. And on April 9th, Thursday, the Astros have a day game here with the Indians, and then they head out of town. But that evening at the Astrodome, there's going to be a special ceremony commemorating that 50th year of the Astrodome. Bobby Dynamite atop the train, which has been quiet tonight. The Astros have been quiet in the hit column. They have none. In 4 innings against Corey Kluber, just 1 base runner, a Rasmus 1-out walk in the 3rd. Chris Carter leads it off. He hit a fly ball to center. And there's strike 1 on Carter. Tremendous year for Chris Carter last year with the 37 home runs. That tied him for 2nd in the American League. He hit 21 of those in this ballpark last year. And the breaking pitch, well disguised, brings a swing and strike 2. Carter now 28 years old. His 37 homers were the most by an Astros since '06, the Carlos Lee era. In the dirt. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Carter is 3 for 11, including a homer off Corey Kluber in his career. Dallas Keuchel has thrown 78 pitches through 5. Kluber's at 54 right now.
I wasn't aware that there was an era named the Carlos Lee era.
You didn't know about that. That's rocked to right center field. A long carry. Brandon Moss at the wall. 1 out.
It's that nice, easy short stroke of Chris Carter that he utilized so effectively second half last year. 2nd most home runs in the major leagues a year ago with 37. And look at him staying right on the baseball, head down. It's led to a much more effective looking hitter in Carter. Comes up just shy.
That's a 2-strike swing. A 1 and 2 count. He gives it a deep ride. Now Castro, he struck out in the 2nd inning. We've seen Castro. He fouls that one off his foot. Strike 1. Hit the ball well this spring to left center field. That's what he did better a couple of years ago than last year.
It's exactly who he was in the 2013 season, the All-Star campaign. very justified to be on that all-star squad. He swung the bat extremely well. He got pitched in a lot last year. Felt like it changed his approach, and now he's trying to adjust to that.
Gorgeous night and a wonderful view for those folks up on the party deck at Union Station. Standing room only tickets were sold for this game. A lot of new features in this ballpark this year. Grounded foul. As Rich Dower, the new first base coach and infield coach. No balls, 2 strikes. Now Castro, a couple of years ago, on some of his swings looked like Lance Berkman, who really utilized left center field in this ballpark. Lance, when he was batting left-handed, let the ball travel deep, and he would rattle doubles and an occasional home run to the Crawford boxes to left field. Strike 3 call. Castro caught looking. Number 5 for Kluber, and Castro has a word or two for Ted Barrett.
Houston Methodist helps us get to know Jed Lowry now as we see the Astros once again shortstop. And you want to get to know him a little bit. Hidden talent, photography. Have to find more about that. But when he takes those shots, best vacation spot, Tanzania. Isn't it that same answer for all of us? Guilty pleasure song, Cups by Anna Kendrick. So, come on, get creative with vacation spot, please.
That's creative. Lowry grounded out earlier. Well, you go to Tanzania about every other year, don't you?
Yeah, which is exactly why I say you know you need to mix in something a little different. Like for me and the bride, we go up to San Antonio.
Okay.
Something like that.
It's kind of similar to Tanzania. Line drive goes foul. 1-1. Have you seen any of the photos on Jed's website?
No,
He
I
is
haven't.
an outstanding photographer.
So you've been bouncing around the websites now.
Yeah, and Julia will probably do a feature on that sometime soon.
Not going to catch us sleeping on flights or anything, is he?
No. That never happens with you. Inside for a ball. 2-1. Lowry, though, is capable of being one of the quiet leaders on this club because of his experience. And, you know, he's 30 years old, about to turn 31. Has a lot of standing in the game. He's capable of working with younger players. 2 balls, 2 strikes. There's always a different mix in the clubhouse of any team from year to year. The Astros bringing in several veteran players, including Jed, this year. We'll find some leadership qualities in some of them. Luke Gregerson's the new closer. 3-2. The bullpen has really been revamped. Chad Qualls was the closer last year. He had a nice season. He was willing to step aside as the closer if that's what the Astros wanted. And that has indeed happened. So he is now one of the setup men. Chad there, but he's definitely one of the leaders on this team as well. Pat Neshek has joined that crew. Joe Thatcher. And the Astros have 3 pitchers on the disabled list as the season opens. One of those, Josh Fields, had a nice year in the bullpen last year. Josh is still in Florida. He's had a groin strain. A.J. Hinch also has 2 potential starting pitchers. Brad Peacock, I believe, is scheduled to be the opening day starter in AAA at Fresno this year. And also with the blister on the left index finger of his pitching hand, Brett Oberholzer opens on the disabled list. Line and a catch there. No catch. It was a short hop play, a ground out from 4-3 to take care of the 5th inning. And that's 8 in a row retired by Kluber. No score.
and Ricardo, because these guys are making a racket out here. Mason is from New York, but you tell me you're an Astros fan. Why are you an Astros fan?
Because they rock.
They do rock. Are you having a good time?
Yes.
Ricardo, the people around you are saying that you're hilarious. How much fun do you have at these games?
Yes, this is my 15th year coming, and I love the Astros with my life. Yes.
But these tickets are...
I met him today, yes, from New York. He's from New York. This is his first Astros game, and it's great. It's great.
Awesome. You guys have a great time today. Progressive end of the game right here. Guys.
Thanks, Julia. Michael Bourne gets it going in the 6th inning. Scoreless game. And that's strike one. Bourne fishing for that one from Keuchel. Keuchel had 79 pitches, has thrown 48 strikes. He led all Astros pitchers in complete games last year with 5. Bourne lets that one sail by, and it's a 1-ball, 1-strike count on Michael. Beats that one into the ground, and it's a 1-2 effort now coming. Keuchel, who got a double play ball in the last inning, walked a couple in that frame. Last year, he led in double play balls on the ground with 36 in the American League. Rolled out to second. Altuve on to Carter. This is some kind of a start for both these guys on opening night.
Bob Feller, the last Major League pitcher to throw a no-hitter on opening day, did it for the Indians. What year was that? 48, I believe.
It was in the 40s sometime, yeah.
And of course, Kluber has the no-no. Keuchel has given up 1 hit. I happened to see a Major League game as a kid that had just 1 hit. That was the Sandy Koufax perfect game.
Ooh.
Bob Hendley, I believe, of the Giants or the Cubs. It might have been the Cubs. Gave up 1 pop fly single that resulted in a run.
Kipnis takes a strike. He is 0 for 2. This could be some kind of a dramatic game here in the 6th inning with a total of 1 hit. Keuchel with a comebacker takes care of that one.
2015 Houston Astros season tickets are on sale right now. Enjoy some of the best seats at Minute Maid Park. Save money and receive great benefits throughout the season. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS right now to reserve your seats.
Bob Feller pitched a no-hitter April 16th, 1940. Opening day, 1-0 win at Chicago in 30-degree weather. The only opening day no-hitter.
Well, I would have thought the hitters would be really ready to hit in that weather.
Strike to Bradley. He's grounded out twice.
That's the thing. Once pitchers get warm in that kind of weather, it's just fine. But for the hitters, not sure the bees ever depart the hands.
True. Fly ball to left. Rasmus still back, reaching up and snagging it. Good retreating catch by Colby Rasmus in left for a 1-2-3 6th. And nobody's budging in this game. Nobody has reached third base. Rasmus is the only one who's reached second. No score.
The Astros all season with MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com at Bat for your smartphone or tablet.
Julia, we just learned from MLB at Bat that Rick Porcello has signed a 4-year deal with the Red Sox. Colby Rasmus leads it off. The Astros looking for their first hit. Corey Kluber has retired 8 in a row. Rasmus, the only base runner for Houston through 5. He drew a walk in the 3rd, advancing as far as 2nd. Marisnik and Altuve to follow. And it's strike 1.
Colby Rasmus trying to take that big swing, launch one, put the only run of the game on the board. Ordered by that little cutter.
Yeah. It's a good one tonight. That late, sharp drop. At a high speed. That's the slower pitch at 81. And it's a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Now the 2nd time through the order. Kluber showing some different looks. This is the 6th time in Houston franchise history the Astros have faced a Cy Young Award winner from the previous year on opening day. Rasmus pretty patient tonight. 2 balls and a strike. He worked the count to 3-1 earlier.
It's really a nice defensive play he made to end the top of the 6th inning.
That's in for a strike. Yeah, it was. He got his shoulders turned the right way, and those shoulders were in a good position to take him back to the wall.
Look at this fastball that catches the inside edge or very close. On top of that, that running movement. So for the left-hand hitter, it looks like it's way inside to start with.
Fouls it back. The 5 previous times the Astros faced a Cy Young Award winner from the year before, they lost 4 of the 5. The only exception, a win over John Smoltz on opening day in '97. They lost to Roy Halladay at Philadelphia, the most recent time they faced a Cy Young Award winner. That was April 1st of 2011. That's in for a strike, and number 6. Tonight's league leaders are brought to you by your local Honda dealer as we look at the most improved teams from 2014. The Astros had an improvement of 11.7%. The Angels were slightly better at 12.4%. That's also the 2nd biggest improvement the Houston club has ever made from one year to the next.
Yeah, that's kind of that good news, bad news scenario, but just keep moving in that direction.
Marisnik grounded out on a broken bat to second base in the 3rd inning. Third baseman even with the bag. Marisnik is speedy. He might think about a bunt. Altuve on deck.
Brownie, we are watching some major league pitching at its finest.
Yes, we are. It's a double dandy so far. Rolled foul, 3rd base side. Who is going to blink? 4 balls, 2 strikes. Partly cloudy night up there. The high today was probably around 80. Indians will go back to much cooler weather after this series. One ball and 2 strikes.
And they refurbished a bit ballpark there in Cleveland.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's
okay. The Astros will not be visiting that ballpark for a while. They'll have a 4-game series when they go to Cleveland in July. Foul ball to Marisnik. Marisnik drafted by Toronto in the 3rd round of '09. He's from Tampa. Went to high school, though, in Riverside, California. Jake's 24. He went from Toronto to Miami in that big 12-player deal. Marisnik's down on strikes. That's victim number 7 for Kluber.
A lot of people will say through the years, pitching coaches maybe, that you've got to be able to establish the fastball. I would say what Kluber's done tonight is establish breaking pitches. And then the fastball becomes a bit of a changeup from that pitch. But his command is so good with all of them that you can't fault what he does. And I don't know if he alters from game to game in that regard. But that slider and then this curveball have been enormous.
It's different than the normal percentage, if there is one. But last year, he threw 52% fastballs, 28% cutters. Altuve has grounded out and struck out. Punched out over second base into shallow center field. First hit for the Astros come from you-know-who, Jose Altuve, who had 225 of those last year.
And the fans aware of Jose Altuve and maybe a bid for another batting title, who knows. But he just gets that slider off the end of the bat, dunks it into center field. He had 39 infield hits last year. So he'll get a variety of knocks, but with 225 hits on the year, he had every type you can imagine.
Now the Astros have their first representation in the hit column. Altuve aboard. Stolen base leader in the American League with 56. Aboard for George Springer, who's 0 for 2. 2 outs in the inning. He goes. And the throw. Not in time. Number 1 for Altuve.
He tore it up on the base paths the first half last year. Really slowed down in the second. And maybe focused a bit on the batting title. Maybe just worn out at that point. But apparently he wants to come out running again this year. And Yan Gomes behind the dish has a very quick release. This was not the most accurate toss.
He wasted no time stealing on the first pitch to Springer, which was strike 1. Now in scoring position. This is one reason Springer is batting second, because of these RBI opportunities with Altuve in front of him. 1 run could go a long way tonight. Springer looks at it, and it's a 1-1 count.
Yeah, I wonder, is George Springer really a guy suited to be taking strikes with Altuve on the run? We'll see. It's good that George is going to have a chance to get a lot of at-bats, as many as possible. I think it's a great thing for Springer and for the club.
Springer looks at a strike. That's 1-2 now.
I don't know if this breaking ball was intended to work to the inside edge, but Kluber takes advantage. Boy, just partial baseballs on the corners all night long.
Line shot into left. Altuve's coming to the plate. Here's the throw from Bradley. It's cut off. It's 1-0 Houston. A rundown on Springer. And here's the throw onto the shortstop covering for the out. Kipnis made the tag, but Altuve scored the first run of the game. The play going 7-5-3-4 on Springer's RBI single.
Well, even in that 2 spot, you get the RBI opportunities, especially with Altuve in front of you. And look at him go. Turn that corner. When he was hitting the bag, the ball was in the left fielder's hands. no easy pickings. That slider might have stayed up just a hair, and the entire ball on the plate. That's a rarity here this evening, but nice job by Springer. And you can see Altuve turning the bag at third base just as the ball is picked up, maybe even a little hair behind. So that's a gutsy send. You're counting on a fine base runner, throw off line, you got the run, and Springer maybe trying to take advantage on the backside in the event that there is a tag play at the plate.
Altuve made something happen with 2 outs in the inning. A single, a steal, and then he scored the run on the Springer RBI single. So now 1-0 Houston. 7th inning beginning with Santana. Santana struck out and he walked. There is some action in the Astros bullpen. Lefty Tony Sipp. And it's strike 1. A.J. Hinch is prepared after 87 pitches by Keuchel to consider another option. Line to left field, headed for the corner. Rasmus over to cut it off. Santana's aboard. Leadoff single here in the 7th.
You know, and I think the initial reaction is to think, well, Dallas might be getting tired. But if you take a look at the pitch that was hit, it was a curveball right over the top. Appeared to be somewhat down around the knees. I'm not so sure it was a pitch that would warrant the conversation that says Dallas is tiring.
Yan Gomes struck out, hit a soft liner to Keuchel back in the 4th. Keuchel, when he went the distance 5 times last year, became the first pitcher in Houston history to lead the league in complete games. Diving play, Valbuena, long throw, and on one bounce, not in time. That's an infield hit for Gomes. Valbuena launched his body to his right. And now 2 on, nobody out.
Wow, what an effort at third base. Yan Gomes. Any catcher who's ever hit one in the infield and seen a play made, you are digging with everything you can going down the line to get the infield knock. But even without getting an out here, you prevent the Indians from picking up an extra base for each runner.
2 on, nobody out for Brandon Moss. And Brent Strom is coming out. Moss has struck out and he's walked. 43,753 the paid attendance. A sellout.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and they're seeing again a terrific pitching duel, and now Dallas Keuchel is going to be really challenged here in the 7th inning. Scott Feldman, Brownie, last year went 6 2/3 shutout innings of 2-hit baseball against the Yankees and picking up that win.
The Astros winning 2 games of that 3-game series from the Yankees to open the season. Beating CC Sabathia opening night. They won 2 openers in a row. Moss with Raybert on deck has 2 men on. Fouls it away, strike 1. Nick Swisher is on the disabled list to open the season. He had surgery on both knees.
It's one of those scenarios where for Keuchel the ideal once again is that ground ball for the double play, a little bit more challenging to get now with the shift arm.
Moss looks at one in the dirt. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Of course, with a left-hand hitter at the plate, maybe you think the other way, strike out something in the infield in the air, and then you play for the double play against the right-hand hitting Rayburn.
That's in for a strike on Moss. 1-2. Moss plied his trade for years and years before he broke through.
Painted. Boy, stick it right on the corner of the quadrant.
He looks at that for ball 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Moss, an 8th round pick by Boston in 0-2.
See that body of Moss flinching on the slider, and it's done it a few times tonight, and yet he's been able to hold the bat back. as a catcher to hang on to a foul tip for a strikeout is really just a matter of the ball finding the glove. And in this case, I think this ball even bounced before it got to Jason. Well, maybe not. But it's really not a skill scenario. You just try to receive the ball.
He swung. And he struck out. 1 out.
You can hear the no, no, no from the Astros dugout. There's no need for a throw. Don't even chase anybody. Well, he goes right back to the slider. Not even close, but that bat got started because Moss was thinking fastball.
Less than 2 outs, first base occupied. No need to make that throw. Castro with a good block on that one. And now it's Rayburn. Rayburn has hit the ball on the ground twice. Keuchel made a phenomenal play to get him on a little roller near third base. Third base line anyway, first time up. There's ball 1.
And because of that fine block by Jason Castro, still the double play scenario.
A play like that can get lost.
Yes. That's the one where the catching coach has his chest swell. He's very pleased with that kind of an effort by the catcher.
Big cut there by Rayburn.
You know, and then you've got a manager who was a catcher in A.J. Hinch. And I imagine there's a lot of input there and effort noticed by the skip.
Trey Hillman, the bench coach, alongside former Major League manager. Now 2 balls and a strike. Now the coaching staff has changed. A.J. Hinch moving in. Santana at second, Gomes at first with 1 out. And a pickoff at second. Gary Pettis coaching third for the Astros now. He coaches the outfielders. Rich Dowers coaching first and the infielders. Trey Hillman, a newcomer, the bench coach. Now it's 3-1.
Dallas Keuchel also aids himself in a great sense in the way he stops running games. That little slide step consistently used to the plate.
He went for it. 3-2 now.
A lot of people talk about throwing over to stop running games, and it can aid in that regard, but the way Keuchel is quick with that slide step to the plate just eliminates the thought of being able to run.
There was only 1 steal with Dallas Keuchel on the mound all year. Did a phenomenal job of preventing stolen bases.
But I would say we are seeing with Dallas some signs of tiring. Some pitches now in the last 2-3 innings up in the strike zone.
Now laboring here at 101 pitches. With a 1-0 lead in the 7th. And Sip continues to throw in the pen. And a little dribbler brings Keuchel over again. He barehands and gets him again, as he did back in the 3rd inning. Very similar ball. Runners moving along to second and third, 2 outs.
Guys having fun on the field. Dallas Keuchel doesn't want to have to make this play over and over. A lot of times guys will barehand, and as they pick the ball up, it jams into the palm of the hand, and then they throw the palm ball, but Dallas able to work it right to the fingers.
Now Chisenhall has been on both times with a single to left and a walk. As runners at second and third and 2 outs. He drove in 59 last year. Keuchel gets another chance and gets out of trouble. There were 2 men on, nobody out. He struck out Moss. He got Rayburn and Chisenhall. It's no runs, 2 hits, and 2 men left in scoring position. We keep it right here with the score 1-0 Astros for the singing of God Bless America.
Not only to honor our great nation, but to acknowledge and thank those servicemen and women who protect our freedoms around the world each and every day. Now, please rise and remove your caps as we welcome Sony music recording artist and American.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
One nothing Astros here as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. Celebrate Jackie Robinson Day with the Astros on Wednesday, April 15th. A special pregame ceremony will take place to honor Jackie Robinson's legacy and celebrate diversity in baseball. Purchase tickets by visiting Astros.com/Jackie Robinson or by calling 1-877-9-ASTROS.
Well, Ash, you mentioned that last year Scott Feldman did not give up a run as the Astros opening day starter in 6 2/3 innings. That was threatened as far as the Astros starting pitchers in back-to-back years, but Dallas Keuchel worked out of trouble nicely in the top of the 7th.
Yeah, that was so impressive by Scott Feldman a year ago. Then he ran into some problems, had a strong second half. But Dallas Keuchel looks just like the guy that pitched so well throughout the season last year.
And now the Astros look for more run support for Keuchel. It's Luis Valbuena. He is 0 for 2. He hits one to center field. Michael Bourne. One pitch, one out for Kluber.
Our TXU Energy Power Player of the game is Evan Gattis, who hit the longest home run in Citizens Bank Park history. That's in Philadelphia. That back in 2013. It came off Cole Hamels and went an estimated 486 feet. Still the longest home run hit there. You can see why. He is a lumberjack. And the Astros are banking on that bat hitting a bunch of balls like that this year.
Gaddis comes up for the third time. He's hit the ball to left field both times. Hit a nice liner there in the fourth, but it was caught. Ball one to Gaddis. He really gets down in that crouch, uses his legs when he strides into the ball. In 2013, he hit 14 homers in the first half of the year and 163 at bats. Up the middle, but Kipnis is there. 2 outs for Kluber. 84 pitches for Kluber, and it's Carter next. Keuchel now has thrown 103 pitches. Tony Sipp has had a lot of warm-up time in the bullpen. It appears that Dallas may be coming out after 7. Carter 0 for 2 has hit the ball in the air pretty well twice.
Yeah, I think a lot of what the Astros wind up doing this year will rest on the shoulders of Chris Carter. Can he match the power numbers of a year ago? Maybe become more of a consistent average type hitter. Hit some balls to the gaps.
Hit 227 last year. Dave Hudgens is the new hitting coach. Alan Zender, his assistant. 1-1. A lot of Astros fans who have followed the team for years will remember Alan Zender coming up and getting his first major league hit with the Astros after years and years in the minor leagues. Good story at the time. And now he has continued his pursuit and has joined the club as the assistant hitting coach to Dave Hudgens. Foul ball makes it 1-2. A.J. Hinch's mother and sister have come in. He grew up in Oklahoma. Niece, wife Erin, and 2 daughters. Big day. Routines are changed. Sometimes it's a half day of school for the kids so they can get here. In the dirt for ball 2. There are some similar questions about both of these teams, if they are to be really good this year, about the starting rotations.
And I think when you're talking about the Astros, there's the hope that Dallas Keuchel is who we've seen tonight and saw last year, that Colin McHugh is every bit as good as we saw last year. Scott Feldman steps up once again. Then you've got to get at least a couple of guys that contribute in a positive way at the back end.
So as we take a look at it, it's Keuchel, Feldman, Wojciechowski, McHugh, and Hernandez to open the season.
Wojciechowski has a chance, in my estimation, of maybe doing a lot more than what has been anticipated. I had mentioned earlier on the night that Colin McHugh would pitch tomorrow night. That is obviously in error.
Yeah, he gets game number 4 this season, Friday afternoon at Texas. Both these teams were pleased, as we mentioned earlier, with spring training, but now what a different feel for the players with the adrenaline showing up. The Astros played 500 ball this spring. 12 wins, 12 losses, 4 ties. Jeff Luhnow's changes on the club looking good because just about everybody he acquired over the winter performed well in spring training. But now it counts, so the microscope is working hard. All these players are under it, and we'll see what 162 games that count reveal. Rocked on a line, but it's caught by Chisenhall. Tough luck for Carter. He really rammed that one hard toward the left field corner after 7, 1-0 Houston. West, Bill Brown, Alan Ashby, Julia Morales. Our buddy Jeff Blum will be joining us for plenty of games during the season. And he's going to be attending the Masters this weekend, Rash.
I'm feeling a great deal of sorrow for him right about now.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Well, I hope he's able to take in Amen Corner and everything else they've got. The beauty of that golf course, I think, unmatched. But my favorite tournament, I don't know about yours or a lot of other folks, but I think Jeff Blum's going to have a very nice time.
Well, he's, of course, very anxious to join our telecast team, and he'll be doing that later on this month. Tony Sipp comes in relief of Dallas Keuchel, who threw 103 pitches in 7 innings. Keuchel allowed 3 hits, no runs, walking 3, fanning 4. Sipp, a former Cleveland Indian, last year made 56 appearances. The Astros claimed him on waivers from San Diego in a tremendous pickup by Jeff Luhnow back in May.
We're always looking for intriguing numbers on guys. Last year, Tony Sipp in 50 2/3 innings allowed just 28 hits. I'll give you the whip on that in a moment. His whip was under the 1 mark. When you're down at 1, you had a great year. He's at 0.888.
50 innings of quality work out of the bullpen. Corner infielders in on Jose Ramirez. So the Astros, who started the lefty Keuchel, now will continue with the left-hander on the mound. With this predominantly left-handed hitting Cleveland lineup tonight. Ramirez a switch hitter. Sipp, the way he jumps at the hitter can really cause, I think, the guy in the batter's box, Ash, to gear up for something, and then sometimes it's a floater. It really can be some good off-speed stuff from Tony Sipp.
A lot of times you'll hear major league hitters go back to the bench or talk to the guy in the on-deck circle as he goes by and say, this guy's, it's a funky look, and I imagine you can get a lot of that with Tony Sipp.
2 balls, 2 strikes. He certainly helped the bullpen in a major way last year. A bullpen which was riddled by injuries to Jesse Crain, who didn't pitch all season, and some of the others in the bullpen. Matt Albers only pitched for about 3 weeks. But Sipp, is 31 years old, from Pascagoula, Mississippi, stepped up, and he worked well in the late innings. Had 4 saves and 11 holds last year. Joe Thatcher is another lefty in the bullpen.
I wonder how Tony Sipp's season last year would have held up had he been in the closer's role. And I'm not advocating that. I'm just questioning it. As well as he threw last year.
He did throw. He got him to chase and struck him out.
This moment in history is brought to you by MD Anderson as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Astros name and the 8th wonder of the world all season long. Of course, that's the Astrodome. And a lot of us had that opportunity to play in the Astrodome, to broadcast there as Bill Brown did, and it was a very special palace.
So many great memories of ball games similar to this one, Ash, where pitching reigned supreme. It was so difficult to hit a home run.
Looked like they had flight attendants in the aisles in those days.
Michael Bourne, the batter. Well, Michael grew up watching Houston Astros baseball. He knows all about that. There's strike 1 to him. He was coached by his dad in Little League. He's grounded out all 3 times tonight.
In today's world, the fans are eating gourmet meals at the ballpark. Back in those days, I guess it was pretty much dogs and burgers, huh?
Yeah, it's dome dogs. No balls, 2 strikes. Have you been over on the Mazda club level yet?
Yes, isn't that gorgeous?
Oh, the assortment of food there is astonishing.
And you can spill to your heart's content.
Oh?
Yeah, you get that hardwood floor or whatever
true.
it is running through there.
There is a hardwood floor.
Pick it up and just go for it.
So are you telling us if we have hardwood floors at home, it's okay to spill?
Feel free.
Okay.
Not at my house, but go ahead and do it at your place.
1-2. 3 hits for Cleveland, 2 for Houston. The Tribe has stranded 5. The Astros have left 1. Takes a look at it, and it's ball 2 on a close one from Tony Sipp.
Good slider and a good location. It's possibly under the knees a bit, maybe down and away. That's probably, if you're asking Tony Sipp and Jason Castro in that scenario, where would you like it? That's very close to the spot.
He flicks it foul. Last year, Michael hit .257. He's a .269 career hitter. Came up with the Phillies. The Astros got him in a trade. That was the Brad Lidge and Eric Brudlin deal, along with a couple of other players after the '07 season. He won 2 Gold Gloves with the Astros in '09 and 2010. Marisnick way over into left center field. Check swing roller. And with 2 strikes in the count, Marisnick moved even further to his right. So there's a tremendous gap in straightaway center, and George Springer has moved well over into right center. They do not expect Michael Bourne to pull the ball. Not in the air anyway.
Yeah, I'm always curious about that. Sipp came off speed with the breaking ball right there, and you can see Bourne out in front. And so, do you try to pitch to where the defense is moving, or do you just let it happen?
He swung, not a good cut. He was fooled on that one and struck out for out number 2. We go to Julia Morales.
Hey, Brownie, you guys talking about the Astrodome earlier. It's a reminder, celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Astros and the Astrodome on April 17th through the 18th, presented by Coca-Cola. On Friday, the 17th, 10,000 fans will receive a Jimmy Wynn bobblehead, and then Saturday we'll turn back the clock with an era-specific uniform. 10,000 fans receiving a 1965 replica Astrodome. For more info or to purchase tickets, visit Astros.com or call 1-877-9-ASTROS today. I want a replica Astrodome.
We'll get one for you. Take care of it. Jason Kipnis 0 for 3.
Not sure of the status of things. You might be able to purchase your own Astrodome these days.
Fly ball to left field. Rasmus puts it away. It's a 1-2-3-8 for Tony Sipp. What an exciting opening night game. Astros 1, Indians nothing after 7.5.
Takes us inside the box score as we'll look at our starting pitchers and how they fared tonight. I'd say pretty good. Kluber's still on the mound, but Keuchel, 7 scoreless for him. See the 4 strikeouts there. 7 for Kluber is just a good old-fashioned pitching duel between these two. But Keuchel picking up where he left off, guys. I know Jeff Luhnow talks a lot about the success of this team has a lot to do with how Keuchel will do this season.
Well, how much more could you get? Dallas Keuchel has given the Astros tonight. He was phenomenal. 7 shutout frames. Great opening night start, Ash.
Yeah, Corey Kluber allowing just 2 hits. Both were singles, but they came back to back. There was also a stolen base in the midst there by Jose Altuve, and it leads to a run.
Gregerson, the Astros closer, is warming up in the bullpen. Corey Kluber trailing 1-0, facing Jason Castro, who has struck out both times. Scott Atchison is warming up in the Cleveland pen. It's ball 1 to Castro. On opening day in 2006, Roy Oswalt and Houston beat Florida 1-0 in Houston. Liner to left. Brantley. 1 out.
There's one of those good at-bats for Jason Castro. And he had a lot of frustrating good at-bats in 2013. But this is the type of hitting that he was approaching at that time. Just stays on that pitch away. Very strong the other way.
3 hits for Cleveland, 2 for Houston. No errors in the game. Jed Lowry has bounced out twice. Colby Rasmus is on deck. Ball 1 from Kluber, who was 18-9 last year. His ERA was 3rd best in the American League, 2.44. He went the distance 3 times. That has been his staple tonight. That quick breaking pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike. Indians were 5th in the American League in ERA overall. And their bullpen made a whole bunch of appearances for Terry Francona. Off-speed pitch makes it a 2 ball, 1 strike count. Lowry is very impressed with the talent at AA Corpus Christi, where the Astros played their AA affiliate a few nights ago. 3-1.
That was the night, excuse me, Brownie, where Carlos Correa really made his presence felt.
Right, and Mark Appel is there, and several other big-name Astros prospects, Teoscar Hernandez and others, playing at Corpus Christi this season. 3-2. Did that possibly cut across the outside corner?
I'm guessing Kluber might have caught the benefit of the doubt right here, being so close all night long. That's a pretty big doubt.
A lot of movement on that pitch. Pulled foul. Lowry batting in this number 7 spot has the capability to put together a decent season for on-base average and set up some run-scoring opportunities for the bottom of the lineup and possibly for Altuve in the number 1 spot.
There were some days not too long ago in Major League Baseball when that pitch by Kluber would have been considered pretty much in the heart of the plate.
Yeah. Lowry takes, and he does get ball 4. He had to work for it, and he actually got it twice. Walk number 2 of the night for Kluber.
Wednesday night's pitching matchup is presented by Chevron. Care for your car. Carlos Carrasco goes for the Indians. Another tough right-hander. Scott Feldman, of course, for the Astros. 8-7 for Carrasco. 8 wins also for Feldman. Trying to improve on that mark this year, but you can see the ERAs quite good, especially that 2.55 for Carrasco and a whip under 1. Wow.
Big-time arm. Coming up at 7:05 Wednesday night.
So if you have a big series against the Indians, it could mean a couple of 1-0 wins.
Good. Shift is on for Rasmus. He takes, and strike 1 to Colby, who walked and he struck out. He's seen a lot of pitches tonight in his 2 plate appearances. There's the way they stack the infield on him. Colby led his high school to a national championship in 05. And prior to that, he won a Little League national title. Rocks this liner, and it gets it through the shift into the right field corner. Lowry heads for third. Gary Pettis will hold him there. It's a long single for Rasmus. Right on that pitch, and it's first and third, one out now.
Colby's one of those left-hand hitters who loves it down and in. Let him be able to drop the barrel of the bat to it, and he will put some sting on it. Well, he kind of clears the hands through. That's a big hit. You can get a second run on this night, you've done something.
That's it for Corey Kluber. Terry Francona has taken the baseball from his Cy Young Award winner from last year. Runners at first and third, one out. Bottom of the 8th inning. Houston 1, Cleveland nothing. Atchison coming in. We'll get to him right after this.
'98, and since that day, the player is hard to ever get out of you, and the competitor in you that's on the field is where my heart's always been. You know, I've had different jobs. I'm not going to shy away from them. I'm proud of them, but my identity is competing every day on the field, you know, with the players, and that. I think the story of me sort of going back and forth has been something I've had to deal with, but no, there's no secret to what I enjoy the most, which is the competition.
That was A.J. Hinch talking about his competitive nature. Our Geico quote of the day. It's 1-0. A.J. Hinch's club has runners at the corners, one out. Home 8th inning. Pitching change brings in 39-year-old Scott Atchison, who went to high school in the Woodlands, and 6-0 with a 2.75 ERA for Cleveland in 70 appearances last year. He really did a number on righties with a 207 batting average against him, Ash.
One of those guys that can run out there so many times, 70 outings, and he gets it started here this evening.
Very big at bat here.
5th major league team.
Jake Marisnick with the infielders in tight takes strike one. He is charged with getting that runner home from third.
Yeah, you wonder right here, would the Astros' A.J. Hinch consider the squeeze? Leading 1-0, you'd love to make this 2-0 going to the ninth.
Tuve on deck. Gregerson warming up. In the air, that'll work. Right fielder Brandon Moss with the catch. Here's Lowry tagging. The throw cut off. 2-0 Houston. Sacrifice fly, Marisnick.
Well, that's a huge run for the club, and Jake Marisnick may not have his first hit yet on the season, but he does have that first ribby and contributing to what for the moment looks like a great chance to win a ball game.
That was such an important plate appearance. A lot has been made of the Astros players and how often they strike out. Well, he put it in play and something good happened.
You want to be a part of a win, and sometimes you do nothing, but you don't hurt the cause. This is a big plus for Jake.
Job number one, get the runner home. Such a big run. Now Altuve, he scored the first run in the 6th inning on the Springer RBI single after singling and stealing a base. 1 for 3 tonight. And there is a buzz around Minute Maid Park right now. Marisnick is a base stealer.
That had to be a real challenging move for Terry Francona as he brought in Atchison. The chances for the strikeout went way down.
Marisnick 14 for 18 as a major leaguer. And Altuve takes a strike.
And yet you've got your ace on the hill. He's over 100 pitches on his first night of the year, and you have to be cautious a lot of times.
Atchison was a 49th round pick by Seattle in '98. Steers to Altuve, 1-1. Terry Francona went to his bullpen more than any other manager last year. Atchison wound up averaging 93 on his fastball last year, the highest average fastball velocity of his career, despite pitching the most outings in a season of his career. This Cleveland bullpen features some fantastic arms. He walked only 14 in 72 innings.
That's one very important stat to keep a manager running you out there.
Springer's on deck. And the throw goes over on Marisnick. Rasmus, rather. He's talking about Marisnick stealing bases, but he's not on right now. It's Rasmus.
You know, in mentioning that, I think Jake Marisnick is going to steal a number of backs, provided he continues to play well and gives himself that chance to be in the lineup.
Rasmus was 4 for 4 in base stealing last year.
He can run, he just doesn't run a lot.
Altuve with a grounder to shortstop, and Ramirez with the toss to Kipnis. The Astros get an insurance run on one hit. They leave a man aboard. It's 2-0 Houston going to the 9th. Oh, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. It's a dandy. Moving to the 9th inning. 2-0 here in Houston. The Astros, behind the pitching of Dallas Keuchel and Tony Sipp, have shut out the Cleveland Indians through 8. Now it's the new closer, Luke Gregerson, coming in for his first save opportunity as an Astro, signing this winter as a free agent to a 3-year deal. Chad Qualls, the closer last season, volunteered, if necessary, that he would move out of the way and let somebody else take over, and Gregerson is the first man up.
Had a heck of a year with the Oakland A's. You know, opening night is tough for everybody in terms of the nerves, but I think when it's opening night and you're with a new ball club, it kind of doubles up on you.
Each club with 3 hits and no errors. Gregerson last year with Oakland in 72 appearances, compiling strong numbers. Luke, 30 years old, from Park Ridge, Illinois. Drafted by the Cardinals in 06. Then he was a Padre. Then Oakland traded for him. Michael Brantley greets him and throws strike one as Gregerson.
What are those poor Padres going to do for a closer this year?
Well, they just traded for a man named Kimbrel, so they should be in good shape, right?
I would think that might work out.
Yeah. They might be in really good shape. Ground ball to first for Carter. 1 out for Gregerson, whose specialty pitch is the slider.
Went off speed to get the ground ball, just reaching to hit the ground ball, Brantley. It's tough to make him take a poor swing.
Gregerson has been primarily a setup man in his career. Last year with Oakland, he had 22 holds. And now as he gets this opportunity, he has 19 career saves in 51 opportunities. That's deceiving because he has been primarily in that 8th inning role. Carlos Santana has a walk and a single. And now he gets the 9th inning shot. That's rolled out to Altuve's left. He drops it, and the throw to Carter. 2 outs.
Now there was time afforded right there. Santana doesn't look like he's running like a youngster anymore.
This revamped Houston bullpen now tries to combine on a shutout.
Every out a big one right now for the Astros.
Last year, the Astros bullpen had the highest ERA in the majors, 4.80. Also, the most blown saves, 26. Now 1 out away from saving it. Gregerson faces Yan Gomes, who's 1 for 3. And it's strike 1 on the slider. Tony Sipp had a 1-2-3 8th inning. He struck out 2. Dallas Keuchel went the first 7. Made some big plays for himself. Got a double play ball. This a slow chopper to third. Goes foul. No balls, 2 strikes. Well, the Astros trying to make it 3 straight opening night wins. Had the fans standing and applauding. That Oswalt shutout of Florida in the 2006 opener was the last Astros opening day shutout win. Last year, the Astros were 12th in earned run average in the American League. Gomes strikes out, and that will end it. The Astros with an opening night shutout win. Dallas Keuchel takes that win, with Tony Sipp getting a hold, and Luke Gregerson, his first save. And the outfielders combined for a little bow at the end of this one. Well, a few players can take a bow on the Houston side. They managed 3 hits, and they won it 2-0.
And it wasn't just Dallas Keuchel making great pitches all night long. Gregerson gets in the act right here. Of course, Tony Sipp as well. That is just a terrific night of pitching and some timely, if not limited, work offensively.
New skipper A.J. Hinch gets his first win with the Astros, who are 3-0 in openers as an American League club. Final 2-0. The Astros beat the Tribe tonight.